I had made a video about how I feel that there's a misimpression of avoidant people, that we're all nice and we're all pushovers and we're all victims in the making, and how wrong that is. And it occurred to me that there's another set of stereotypes about avoidance that are completely inaccurate, and I wanted to address them because it's so easy to hear things, and especially if they're negative, and sort of attach them to yourself, and they become part of your core belief, and you just believe this about yourself. And I hope that avoidants do not do that. So I'm trying to basically say how completely, utterly wrong these descriptions of how avoidant people behave are. I got a partial list, this isn't even the whole thing, off of the website Out of the Fog, which, by the way, is supposed to be an information support site for those with a family member or loved one who suffers from a personality disorder. So it's not for people with personality disorders. It's basically a massive bitch session. People who are not happy with any personality disorder person, and so they're just fetching about it left and right. And so I highly suggest that you don't go looking for information on Out of the Fog unless you really want to hate yourself. But this is part of their list of ways to identify an avoidant person, and it is as wrong can be. First is blaming, identifying a person responsible rather than dealing with the problem. Guess what? A lot of the times you have to do that. Okay, as I'm avoidant, and I'm talking like an avoidant, but you do. I mean, if there's a problem and you're not the one that's making the problem, then it doesn't matter how much you try to fix the problem. If it's not originating with you, it's still going to be a problem. I mean, if it's something as petty as not putting the toothpaste cap on, I could put the cap on every time I see that toothpaste tube open. But if the other person is never going to bother to put the cap on, then yeah, the toothpaste is going to get all cruddy and dried out. And it won't matter how much I work. So sometimes there are situations where you really do need to know who's responsible. Second is something I've never heard of before called control me syndrome, which is a tendency to have relationships with narcissist and antisocial people. First of all, yeah, so that's sort of going after the family members and loved ones, not the avoidant. Y'all even realize this when you put it on the website. But, especially with alcoholic people or people from alcoholic families, they tend to recreate that situation in their relationships. They will seek out other alcoholics because that's what they're used to. Well, guess what? If you grew up in an abusive family situation, yeah, there's a good chance that as an adult, unless you really consciously try to avoid it, you're going to get in another relationship with somebody like that, and not the avoidant's fault. And if that's what's going on, then you need to point everything that you're pointing at yourself, because you're the one that's making this happen. That's so awful. Emotional blackmail, using threats to control. No, not at all. I can see why somebody might think that. However, avoidant people have limits, and they're usually much closer than a non-avoidant person's limits. But they generally don't like to, push people out unless they really have to. So what they'll do is they'll give you warnings. You say, you know what, you're getting close to this. This is my limit. If you cross this, I can't be with you anymore. And that's it's not a threat. It's trying to maintain the relationship and saying, okay, this is what I need. You've got to do this. That's not a threat. Jeez. Engulfment, an unhealthy level of attention on another person. Well, guess what? You know what? If you have 50 people in your life, compare the attention that you would give one of those people to somebody who only has 1 or 2 or 3 people in their life. Obviously, there's going to be more attention given just because there's less that has to be doled out to people, which comes from imagining or believing one exists only within the context of the relationship. Okay, now you're making up stuff. Now this is complete, utter, total fabrication, that you're trying to imagine why somebody would do that instead of logically looking at why they might do that. Identity disturbance, distorted or inconsistent self-view. Okay, wrong. Now, first of all, I would say about avoidant people, the ones that I've known, they have a really, really strong self-image. They know who they are. It's not inconsistent. However, distorted, well, maybe we're a little bit more negative than other people, but whatever, that's what we think, and it might not be right, but guess what? Whoever is completely right all the time. Lack of object constancy, which is an inability to remember that people or objects are consistent, trustworthy, and reliable, especially when they're outside of vision. So basically you're saying we're all nuts, that if we don't see somebody, we think they disappear? No. As far as the lack of trust thing, okay, yeah, that's pretty serious. And what that is, people change their opinions. So it's always possible that somebody could go away. Learned helplessness, belief that they have no control over a situation. Again, a lot of times we don't. You can't control what somebody else is doing. So, the one and only thing that we absolutely can do is leave. And that sucks. And we don't want to do that. That should be the last thing that we could do. But you know what? You can't force somebody to act in a way that's compatible with what you need. So, yes, we are helpless a lot. It's not learned helpless. It's just a fact of life. Oh, the one that really burns me up. Neglect. When the emotional needs of a dependent are disregarded or ignored. No, I'm sorry. Guess what? If we aren't doing exactly what you want or need, oh well. Because I guarantee that every single avoidant who is in any relationship whatsoever, whether it's with a family or with a romantic relationship or even a friendship, I guarantee you that if they are still talking to you at all, if they are interacting at all, that they are doing the most that they possibly can. And you know what? If somebody is giving 100%, then I'm really sorry that you're disappointed about how we're letting you down or whatever it is that you're thinking. But if you're giving 100%, there's nothing more that you can do. And that is impossible to be neglect at that point. If you're giving 100%, it's not neglectful. It just means that whichever spoiled brat out there isn't getting everything that they want and need. Okay, well then you can leave if it's not enough. If we're not enough, go away. But don't you dare say that we're neglectful, because they're not. An avoidant person is extremely devoted, so give me a break about that. Let's see, selective competence, different levels of competence based on situation. No, wrong. However, yes, we're more comfortable around people that we know than strangers. That, give me a break. It's really starting to get to me, can you tell? Splitting, practice of regarding people or situations as either completely good or bad. Yes, we tend to be very black and white in our thinking. However, this is again a massive overstatement. I've never ever seen anybody do that. I know that they tend to, well, they're calling it splitting. They tend to separate and say, this is a situation I can handle and this is a situation I can't. And it's very hard to have a gray area, because guess what? Gray areas are places where avoidant people can't handle it. Just fact. Testing, repeatedly forcing another person to prove their commitment. Yeah, we do this. We do this a lot. And the reason is because people go away. And people get bored. And the thing is that if somebody is completely bored with you and is doing other things, you know, spending time with other people, etc., it can seem like they're gone completely, and they're really not. And so the testing thing is not trying to catch somebody up. It's more like just a reassurance. You know what that means? That means that you are not being as reassuring as you should be to an avoidant person. That, you know, I get that that's a little annoying. However, you know what? That's what we need. That's what we need. And we never learn. And we never learn. You know, it doesn't matter how committed you can be and how much you can say, because people change. And we've all been burned really badly, usually by our parents, but also by really good friends. And we trusted somebody and they said they were going to be there forever, and they completely lied. So yes, that's what we know. We know that that's a wonderful sentiment for somebody to have. But then to actually put it into action is a completely different matter. And they're two different things. And no, we don't trust. Tunnel vision, a tendency to focus on a single priority while neglecting others. Again, neglecting, no, we don't neglect. And you know what? Multitasking kind of sucks, and everybody says that, and that we should all be trying to focus on one thing at a time. I don't see how that's a problem. But those are some of the things, not even all of them, that people have said about avoidant people. It's completely bogus, and they're just plain not true. So if you read these, then ignore anything that anybody else says, because they're basically talking out of their butts. And so go ahead and tell me what other stupid thing that you've heard that are supposedly things that avoidant people do all the time, and how it's sometimes based a little bit on in a smidgen of truth, but usually it's just a massive interpretation of what we're doing, why we're doing it, and it's just people just putting a negative spin on us that we really do not deserve.